Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, folks of all stripes, and distinguished guests, put your hands together for the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Houston, we have Paul Salazar Jr.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast, your Houston sports podcast for die-hard Houston sports fans from a die-hard Houston sports fan. I'm Paul Salazar Jr. I'm an actor, comedian, writer, improviser, creative multi-hyphenate, and of course, a proud Houston native, and I have the receipts to prove it. I was there when they built a Starbucks across the street from another Starbucks. I believe that was in West Gray, over there on that crazy intersection way back in the day. I don't even know if that's still there anymore. That's right, guys. I know my Houston history. I spent the last decade or so as a comedy writer here in Los Angeles, and now, well, I'm podcasting. I can't feel that bad about it. The governor does it. Steve Buscemi does it. That's what happens when you hit 10 years out here in Los Angeles. You start absent-mindedly calling it the 10 instead of I-10, and they give you a podcast. Welcome to said podcast. Space Cadet Sports was started as a passion project because most media is infuriating as a die-hard long-term fan of your Houston teams. Here we aren't doom and gloom casual fans, or worse, the national media haters. We love our team and want to root them on and want to try to discuss the ins and outs of them without too much homerism. The key word here is that this is an attempt, this is a try, this is something that we're attempting, right? Welcome returning listeners and welcome new listeners to what my brother calls the Paul Broadpod Ball Blog. Hey brother, shout out to brother Jesse, shout out to both my brothers, honestly, shout out to Arrested Development fans. Please check out spacecadetsports.substack.com for the full blog experience, or the full blog experience, depending on how you want to interpret that pronunciation there. We, of course, are recording this transmission here in sunny Los Angeles, where I'm joined, as always, by my co-host and co-producer, the Roz to my Frasier. Carla, the dog, is here with me, and listeners of the podcast know that she's got the hot takes on this podcast. She may get on mic from time to time. Everything here in the studio is catered to her. I am a secondary character here. Folks, on this episode, we are going to talk about your Houston Astros dropping a series to the Seattle Mariners. Very frustrating day yesterday for us here. Carl and I watched the Astros lose. We watched the Rockets lose. Obviously, they sat everybody they possibly could in that game, but still a frustrating sports week for us here. It started off feeling optimistic, going into the Natty, going into the championship game on Monday, but since then it has been tough here for your boy. Before we get into the podcast, I do want to quickly wish a good day, mates, to all of my Australian listeners out there. If you're new to the podcast, I hate to brag, but when we first started, we skyrocketed up the charts of Australian baseball podcasts. We were just outside of the top 100. So we always say, good day, mates, to our Australian listeners. We want any Australians out there to know they're welcome here at the podcast. Let your Houston friends know that this podcast is out there. Let the Australians know that we're out here, folks. But let's get to this episode. Let's go. I don't even want to talk about this Astros series, folks. It's like, I obviously need to talk about the Astros. They should get the A block here, but I'm already looking to scramble in my notes here to talk about something else. That game against the Seattle Mariners that was lost just yesterday was a tough one, a tough pill to swallow. The Astros lost 6-7 to the Seattle Mariners. The game looked pretty sewn up until the 8th inning. It was a tough series against the Seattle Mariners. I, of course, have to eat my words. I said that they would win 2 games against Seattle. all of these games were decided by one run. All of these games were frankly winnable. I was going to say no offense to Mariners fans, but, they're not the most fun people. They definitely don't like Astros fans. They're kind of just ridiculously cruel to begin with, so I don't care if I offend them or not. The Mariners are a great pitching team, but they're not exactly world beaters right now. However, saying that as we drop a series to them, what's that say about the Astros, right? We'll get to that today for sure as we go. I feel like the Astros are a mediocre team at this moment that are on top of playing mediocre baseball. They're also struggling for consistency. We can see that this team has a high ceiling, but right now they're playing some mediocre baseball, and that's what happens. That's the only way you can describe losing a series to the Seattle Mariners and every single game just being decided by one run. They lost their first game 3-4 against Seattle. That was the Taylor Scott loss. That was lost in the eighth inning. The Astros went up 3-1 and lost in the eighth inning. Obviously Taylor Scott did not have a good game in that game. Taylor Scott has not looked like the 2024 version of Taylor Scott. We're still rooting for him. We're not saying that, but pull out the panic meter on Taylor Scott. We're just saying that so far this season, he doesn't look to be a bridge guy, a setup guy, that seventh inning guy that we were hoping that he could be, and I'm kind of relying on Taylor Scott to be this season. He has not fit that bill. We're still hoping that he can turn it around, but that was a tough one. Then in the second game of the series, the Astros won 2-1 in extra innings. They went up in the 12th inning to win that game. That was a game where Smith got a big hit, Caratini got a big hit. It was good to see the Astros have some life in their offense and play some competitive baseball. But then yesterday, the game was once again lost past the eighth inning for the Houston Astros, or won or lost past the eighth inning, I should say. That really goes to reflect that both of these teams, they profile to have great starting pitching, and they are relying on that great starting pitching. Now, luckily for the Astros lineup doesn't project to be quite as abysmal as the Mariners lineup can be. However, this doesn't feel quite like the golden age of Astros baseball right now. This kind of feeling that things are a little bit different. People are starting to panic. Don't worry, I'm going to tell you to calmate. That's right. Calm down. It's just April. Now, while the Astros might be a different team than they have been in the past, this organization still knows how to win. Until this organization struggles deep into the season, I'm not buying it. A lot of people are just ready to bury the Astros because, I don't know if you've been paying attention, not a lot of fan bases and the national media for sure, they don't like the Astros. They're ready to bury them. The national media sells stories when they get their shovels out and throw dirt on the Astros. So as often as humanly possible, these people will get the shovels out and bury the team. Calmate. Don't fall for the national narrative there. Okay, this team, I'm not going to sit here and say that this team is perfect right now. This is not the way the Astros want to play baseball. But I am on record saying that this team can be a 90-win team. I didn't say it can be. I projected that. I think this team can be great. They need to find some offense, though. They need to be consistent. Let's play a little game of the usual suspects. That's right, we're going to look at the usual suspects here to see who exactly is to blame for the Astros losing this series, particularly last night's game. Obviously, one of the usual suspects that all Astros fans and all national media has been putting up there is Jose Altuve. The Astros offense has not been good. In the league, they are in the bottom in hits. Their OPS plus is second lowest in the American League. Their batting average is hovering around 200. Carla jumped up in shock and looked at me. She could not believe that stat. Sure, it might have been a bird making the noise outside, but I'd like to think that she was shocked by how bad the Astros hitting has been this season. But that hasn't been Jose Altuve. Jose Altuve, on the other hand, actually has been one of the consistent marks for the Houston Astros this season. And a lot of people have been pointing out that he's playing a new position. Oh, really? I hadn't noticed. Of course, I've known this. We've been talking about Jose Altuve in left field, probably nonstop on the podcast and blog since January. This is not, a lot of people are having new opinions and new takes on Jose Altuve playing left. I said he'll be fine. And this season he has been fine. There's been a bobbled ball here or a tough transition there. But really, when you look at how regular Major League Baseball outfielders play outfield, he has not been the worst left fielder in the league at all. Even Harrison Bader had a really rough week. I said it on a podcast. He definitely, missed a couple catches, had a couple bungled plays out there in left field. Playing professional baseball is error-riddled. And so far, Jose Altuve hasn't completely looked out of place in the outfield. People saying that the Astros are making a huge mistake here. Okay, maybe you know better than the Astros front office. Maybe you know better than Major League Baseball executives. Maybe you're a retired executive and you just know. But for me and my household, we actually think that this is just a move to help make the team be more flexible, to help Jose Altuve remain a consistent factor on this team for years to come, while also making sure that this team can compete and will not be hamstrung by having to play Jose Altuve at left as his defense starts to dwindle. I talked to a lot of fans from other fan bases, and they're like, is Jose Altuve's defense really that bad at second base? And no, of course not. His second base defense isn't the worst, but the way this makes sense, I've said this in the past, I'll say it again, the Astros play at Daikin Park. They don't want the ball in the air. They don't want hard contact in the air. So a lot of their pitchers, they want to profile them to try to keep the ball on the ground and on the infield, like Framber Valdez. That's kind of a good path to success for pitchers at Daikin Park. So if they can do that, if they have pitches in their arsenal where they can induce ground balls, that's something that the team will try to push them to do. Now, if your team has a lot of ground balls, you're going to have a lot of infield defensive plays. And with that being said, if Jose Altuve, last season he had some kind of, bungled plays, a couple weird double plays, a couple weird moments at second base. If the Astros are worried about his defense going forward, they're thinking, let's see if this guy can play another position besides just second base and DH as he's getting older. I think it's a great idea. I think, obviously, it has to work. Jose Altuve has to learn how to play left field, but so far, so good, I'd say. So I don't think it's Jose Altuve. Obviously, we're looking at Christian Walker. We're looking at Yordan Alvarez, who have struggled this season offensively. But Christian Walker has started to walk. He didn't have a spring training. Sometimes without a spring training, it takes players a little bit longer to kind of find their sea legs. Sometimes they just come out swinging and they're good. I don't know. I think it varies from player to player. But Christian Walker looks like he's starting to figure it out. Yordan Alvarez has hit a home run finally, I should say. He's hit home runs in his career, but this season he's finally gone yard. He's hit a yordong out there. He's getting some really loud outs. He doesn't seem to be striking out as much as he has been the first week or so of the season. So it looks like he's turning it around. I don't buy Jordan and Christian Walker as the scapegoat here, nor do I think Jeremy Pena. His defense has kind of turned around from last season. It's been a struggle a little bit this season to get going, but he's looking like he found some power again. He's looking to put the ball in play. He doesn't look like he is a little lost up there when and chasing pitches as much as he was last season. However, the guy that I do think I'm a little worried about is Yainer Diaz. Yainer Diaz's offense hasn't been that great. His defense hasn't been that great. Pitch framing, by every metric, Yainer Diaz has been struggling. Victor Caratini has kind of made a case to get a little more playing time in this series. But still, I don't think all the fault falls squarely on Yainer. I think the fault of this team, the reason this team has struggled this season, the reason that this team has struggled in this series is consistency. This team has great starting pitching. This team has a capable lineup. This team has a deep lineup. Jake Meyers had a really good series. And if Jake Meyers can take counts deep and not strike out, that's pretty much all we're asking from him. Take the count deep in that 8th or 9th spot. Don't strike out. Put the ball in play. It's kind of like the Mauricio Dubon rules. Mauricio Dubon will go up there. Now, he might be swinging at everything. He might not ever take a walk in his life. He's taken some walks lately. I'm being hyperbolic. I love seeing Mauricio Dubon take a walk, which he's done this season. But I'm just saying, if he goes out there with those Mauricio Dubon rules and Jake Meyers just puts the ball in play, doesn't strike out, that would be a high success for us. And so I feel like the thing is consistency. We're not getting the lineup hitting and the starting pitching hitting and the hitting all at the same time. These balls have been juggling, and one of them is always down and two of them are always up. It seems like this team cannot figure out a way to have all cylinders firing all at once. And in this game, in this series, in this series and in the past game, obviously the culprit is going to be the bullpen. The bullpen, it's looking bad. And last year and this year, going into the season, we're worried about the bullpen. However, this bullpen looks like we're going to have to go back to the Dana Brown pitching carousel, and we're going to have more pitchers coming in and out. It's going to be a thing where a lot of them are going to be veteran arms that haven't quite clicked in the majors and are on minor league deals, bouncing up and down from Sugar Land to Houston. And before you panic, remember that's what the Astros did last season, and it worked. It took a lot of work from Dana Brown. It took a lot of management from Joe Espada, but it worked. And I think that this bullpen, we just traded away Rafael Montero, which honestly, thank you, Monty, for the World Series. It was not a good contract that the Astros had him on. He got DFA'd last season, and this season he hasn't pitched great, but he's pitched good enough to get traded. And believe it or not, there are worse bullpens out there than the Houston Astros. The Braves were happy to take Rafael Montero. And that's just a little bit of perspective for you Astros fans. We're very spoiled. We have a good team. We've had a great team, I would say, for a decade. We've known nothing but winning. We've known nothing but good things. So when something is mediocre to average, like this Astros team is playing right now, we think it's terrible and you have to fire Espada and fire everybody. Look, this is the Astros are very mediocre right now in a lot of metrics. In some metrics they're pretty bad when it comes to hitting. But when it comes to the bullpen, when it comes to pitching, a lot of their metrics are good to average. So, that being said, bullpen and relief pitching is highly volatile. It's as volatile as a stock market right now. It is crazy. It can go up one day, down the other. Relief pitching has really limited opportunities to go out there and pitch, so the stats are limited, and it takes a while for them to compile before we really know how to read into that data a lot of times. However, I really think that this bullpen, as it stands, can figure it out. But sometimes you have to pitch the guys to know how to use them, to know where they stand. And, a lot of people have been critical of Joe Espada. Obviously, in the bullpen usage in this series can be questioned because the bullpen didn't execute. However, when I look at the options that Joe Espada had for this series, going into the series, we were behind the 8 ball because in the Minnesota series, we had to pitch some bullpen games. Essentially, Arrighetti got out early. Ronald Blanco didn't have a good game. We had to heavily rely on the bullpen. So going into the Mariners series, we were looking to not use the bullpen that much. The starting pitching did great, but the bullpen really struggled. And I think partly that was because Joe Espada was having to pitch the guys that were fresh, not exactly the guys that he would want to depend on all the time in a certain situation. Bennett Sousa, he came back, a left-hander that we've been very excited about on the pod to see how he pitches. He came up from Sugar Land and did not have a good game last night. Luis Contreras almost held it down. In this game, we needed some pitchers to get outs. Joe Espada leaned on Luis Contreras to give every ounce that he could. Unfortunately for Luis Contreras, he just didn't have the control. He didn't have his pitches really working for him towards the end of his outing. He had to be replaced by, I believe that was Brian Abreu. Let me just double check that. He was replaced by Okert. Sorry about that. I felt like I was wrong. Luis Contreras, believe it or not, he did get a hold. He picked up his first hold in that game. Okert came out. Obviously, with the bases loaded, he did pretty well, but he had one bad pitch. And in baseball and relief pitching, that's all it takes is one bad pitch. Randy Rosarina took that for a grand slam and made the Astros and Astros fans like me really start to worry. Brian Abreu came out and he was struggling with his control a bit. He wasn't really throwing competitive pitches. And Brian Abreu, there's some times where he has a game or two like this in his stretch. And a lot of Astros fans are like, trade him, get him out of here. We don't like Brian Abreu. Why does Brian Abreu suck? And it's sample size, it's bullpen pitching. At the end of the day, if a bullpen pitcher has a 3 ERA, he's a pretty good pitcher, right? Now, that's 3 runs over 9 innings as an average, right? So that means if that's what they give up as an average over 9 innings, every now and then they'll come in for their 1 inning of work and get blown up, and it will look nasty. But over time, their numbers won't reflect that that's how it will always be. I think Brian Abreu will bounce back from this. He needs to make a couple of adjustments. He needs to find his control. But it definitely was a tough game. I don't know what more to say about it besides it was a tough one. We're hoping the Astros bullpen will get better. Dana Brown will bring up some fresh arms. We want to see what Logan Van Wy, who was recently brought up, how he's doing, what he'll factor into this bullpen. I like Okert. I like King. Obviously, I'm defending Brian Abreu because he is a great pitcher. He just had an off game, and he's going to have an off game. Look, folks, I've said it before, I'll say it again. A lot of Houston fans look at this as if it is a football team, as if there's only 16 or 17 games in the season, so every moment is so big and you have to overreact. You have to blow it up. There's 162 games in a season. Brian Abreu can have an all-star season and still probably blow 5 to 7 saves. I mean, I could be wrong here. I'm just saying blown saves happen. Things happen. It happens frequently throughout the season if you want to look at it like that. Well, it happened 5 to 7 times, so he must be bad. But we're looking at ratio, we're looking at percentages. I think he's going to be fine. With that being said, folks, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more Astros, some Rockets, and just saying thanks one more time to the Coogs.
Houston Astros, Houston Texans, Houston Rockets, Houston Dynamo, Houston everything, Houston born and raised, H-Town Rebel, Space Cadet Sports.
Welcome back, folks, to this off-day goof-off podcast here with Space Cadet Sports. I hope you're enjoying your off day. There's no Astros. There's no Rockets. Maybe you'll join me. Maybe we'll catch a minor league game of some kind of sort. Maybe we'll watch some TV for once. I finally caught up on The White Lotus. I need to catch up on Righteous Gemstones. Let me know what you're watching out there, fam. We love talking TV. I also have a Saturday Night Live podcast. I obviously work in Los Angeles, so I love talking TV. Let me know what you're watching out there on this off day, fam. We will preview your Houston Astros series going forward against the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. The Angels have been playing some good baseball as of late. The Angels are second in the West with a 7-4 record. Obviously, the Astros third in the West with a 5-7 record, I should say there. Today we are off. Tomorrow, Friday the 11th, we will get the season started. But before we do that, I don't know why I just thought of this. I was thinking about that Jordan moment. In last night's game, while I am not blaming the offense, there obviously was still some moments. Jordan had so many loud outs. He's going to run into one soon enough. But he almost had that grand slam in that game before the Randy Arozarena grand slam. And sorry, quick coffee sip break. If you're not watching this podcast on Substack, you're missing me making faces and drinking coffee. That's some good coffee right there, folks. You can find the Substack at spacecadetsports.substack.com, where you can watch this video podcast for free. But back to the Grand Slam that we missed out on. It really, I was really excited. Everybody here knows that when a home run gets hit for the Astros, Carla, the dog, gets a TREAT. And for those of you who can't spell, check the show notes. I'll put that in there for you. But when there's a grand salami, she gets a salami. A nice piece of salami. I'm trying to make sure she's asleep and not hearing what the words that I'm saying right now. She's a smart girl. Sadly for Carla, sadly for Astros fans, I'll put the stat music graphic up there. The Astros have not hit a grand slam since September 6th, 2023 against the Texas Rags. This has been heartbreaking, folks. All last season, there were multiple grand slam moments. There were so many moments with the bases loaded and the Astros failed to execute. This season, I'm calling for grand slams. Yordong, if you were out there, if you're listening to the podcast, like I know you do, baby, please give me and Carla a grand slam. We could use it. But moving forward, hopefully there'll be a grand slam in this series versus the Angels. Let's talk about these pitching matchups real quick. The Astros will pitch Ronel Blanco, who has a tough start to his season here, folks. He has been struggling with walks. It's something he struggled with his whole career, with his short career, I should say, with the Houston Astros, as he was a just amazing presence to show up last season and bolster this rotation. Obviously, with Arrighetti out, with a new rookie pitcher coming into the back end of the rotation, we need Ronel Blanco to be solid. He walks batters, I should say, in the first inning. As the game goes, somehow Ronel Blanco gets better. I don't know why this is. As he pitches, he gets better. He limits the walks as he goes. This first inning, we really want Ronel to be sharp. We want him to have 0 walks and try his best to walk as little of the Angels as possible. That is going to be his key to success. The Angels will be pitching Jack Kochanowicz. I'm sorry. I apologize for my eyes getting big there with that many consonants. I was worried. I pronounced everything poorly. Even the English words I know intimately, I will get on the podcast and mispronounce. So I always apologize to players when I'm mispronouncing their names up here. Mr. Kochanowicz is 24 years old. He is a right-hander, 6'7", 228, really tall guy. Last season he started some games, was 2 for 6 with a 3.99 ERA and 65 and 1/3 of an inning with 25 strikeouts and a 1.19 WHIP. Obviously limiting those hits and walks. Not exactly a strikeout guy based off of those stats. However, this season he's pitched 11 innings with 8 strikeouts and still has that WHIP at 1 with a low ERA. So while this is a young pitcher, young Jack here has done very well for himself so far in his young career. This could be a trap game for the Astros. A lot of times they make these young pitchers look really good, or these unheralded pitchers look really good. We're hoping that the Astros can do some damage against this young man. While we're looking at it here, his field independent pitching, hasn't looked too great this season, as it's 4.91 on the season. His ERA, sorry, is that right? Yeah, that's sorry. His field independent pitching is 5.92. I apologize about that. That was his projection field independent pitching for the season from Fangraphs. His field independent pitching is 5.92. So we're looking at that. We're thinking maybe he's been getting a little lucky. Maybe his defense has been picking him up. If the Astros can find some ways to get some hits past the infield, to get some nice hits into the gap, this could be a game where they can do some damage. In this game, tomorrow, we want the Astros to come out swinging. Now, I don't mean that literally. They're going to have to be patient. I don't want them swinging out of their cleats and whiffing all the time. But they're going to have to make some contact, limit the strikeouts, and boost the walks. They were getting walks in the last game, and it made me so happy. If they can just keep that up, keep getting those walks, but getting those hits in big moments, this season will be good for them. We'll have to keep a close eye on that, because I want their lineup to take the Angels to double digits. I want this to be a big offensive game. I don't want them to make this a bullpen game. Score a lot of runs, give that bullpen some cushion so they can go out there and do some pushing. Right, folks, so we're going to move on to the next game, Saturday's game on the 12th. That's going to be Tyler Anderson, the left-handed pitcher from the Angels, going up against Ryan Gusto, the rookie pitcher from the Houston Astros. Ryan Gusto has had a very short career with the Astros. He was supposed to pitch that last Cleveland game of the year last season and didn't quite make it. But he's pitched well for us in a very limited sample size. He's only had 8 innings with the Houston Astros. He's got 9 strikeouts with a sub-1 WHIP of .88 and an ERA of 1.13. With 1 win, very limited sample size, but this guy is a competitor. I like what he has been doing. We're hoping that Gusto can go out there and maybe get 5 to 6 innings, limit the runs as best he can, and just have a solid rookie outing. And, we're looking for 5 to 6, and in this game, we're going to need the bullpen to pick up the starting pitching. While I'm calling for Ronald Blanco to be solid, here I'm calling for the middle relief guys and the late inning guys to really pick it up. If the last game we could get ahead, get some of the younger arms in there, maybe get Van Wy in there, get him in the mix, maybe put somebody who has a little bit of struggles, but limit how much they pitch, just to not let them spiral, that would be nice. But for this game, the bullpen's going to have to step it up. I think, Gusto might run into some trouble where we want him to go long, but we don't want him to lose that confidence, so he might be lifted a little earlier than a standard pitching outing, and let's get to the bullpen. Tyler Anderson, on the other hand, this guy is a 35-year-old veteran. His career ERA is 4.27 with a career 1.28 WHIP in 207 games. On this season, I'm conflating my stats here. On this season, he's pitched 2 games where he's only pitched 10 innings. He has a 4.50 ERA, I think Tyler Anderson, and I have his page up here. Tyler Anderson on Baseball Savant here. His fastball run value is pretty great. I think for him, he's good at limiting hard hits, getting that fastball by people. If for Tyler Anderson, what the Astros are going to have to do is do damage on that fastball when it's in the zone and when it's in the heart of their swing. If they can just swing at those fastballs that are something they can do damage with and wait for the breaking and off-speed pitches that are kind of hanging, they'll do pretty good against Mr. Anderson. In the third game of the series, the Astros and Angels will play each other. Let's see here. Sorry about that, folks. I'm bouncing around from screen to screen here. It's going to be Kyle Hendricks, another veteran for the Angels here. We're not going to see the young pitcher that everybody's been talking about for the Angels. Kyle Hendricks here is a right-handed pitcher. On this season, he's done fairly good. On last season, though, he did have a really rough season. He had a .592 last season for a 4-12 record, 130 innings pitched with only 87 strikeouts. His whip was 1.45. He really struggled last season. Kyle Hendricks, he will be facing Hayden Wesneski. Hayden Wesneski has done amazingly for the Houston Astros and the back end of that rotation. The hometown kid has been doing great. He has a 3.75 ERA and 12 innings pitched with 11 strikeouts and a 0.67 whip. Let's see, I'm pulling up Kyle Hendricks here right now. This is great podcasting, just me typing into my iPad keyboard. Yeah, for Kyle Hendricks, he's going to be an off-speed run value guy. We want to watch out for that changer, that cambio from Kyle Hendricks. That's definitely his main pitch there. So we want to make sure not to get that string pulled on us, that seat pulled out from under us is what I'm trying to say there with Kyle Hendricks. Hayden Wesneski, obviously we're looking for him to get those sliders going. His off-speed has been great as well, with his cambio doing just as good as other Astros. I feel like when you come to Houston, you get a change-up, and it really helps you out. We're looking for Wesneski to do another great outing. I don't know if he can do 6 to 8 innings regularly, but it'd be great for him to eat a lot again. Honestly, with this Angels team, they've been hot lately. It's tough because last series against the Mariners, honestly, I almost called for a sweep. I was like, I think the Astros could sweep this team. And I think they realistically could have if they would have had some bullpen pitching, if they would have had the hits in the right moments. I think the Astros could sweep the Angels. I don't think that's outside of the realm of possibility, but the Angels have really been playing fantastically lately. You don't want to disrespect Mike Trout. I'm going to say the Astros win this 2-1. I think that they're hungry. I think they're a little angry, and I think after losing that game, they're going to bounce back. They're going to have a win here, and they're going to ride that for a nice series win. Folks, we're going to have to see how that goes. Real quickly before we wrap up the podcast, I want to shout out the University of Houston Cougars. Now that we're not completely in our emotions after that national championship loss, it was such a great season. I just want to once again thank them for the amazing season. I can't wait to see how they do next year. That being said, we'll talk a little bit more Houston basketball here with the Houston Rockets. Your Houston Rockets lost to the LA Clippers last night, 134-117. It was a tough one, folks. Obviously, the Houston Rockets have the second seed clinched in the Western Conference. Right now, they are, they're really. Sorry, I'm trying to get. I won't pull up the box score. That's fine. That's just not going to work with me here. The Rockets already have that second seed clinched, is what I'm trying to say. As I'm juggling over here. They weren't playing to win because they had everybody resting. Obviously, you don't want to give away too much momentum, but they started Reed. It was a fun game. The Clippers had Kawhi out there. The Clippers are looking to win. They are now 48-32. This team desperately needs to win versus the Rockets, who kind of now are just kind of playing with some ideas, kind of not trying to show their hand too early before the playoffs, making sure that everybody is healthy, resting players that might need some rest. So this was an easy one to feel like the Rockets were going to drop. So still, after watching the national championship, after losing a series to Seattle, you kind of would want to win a basketball game to feel better about your Houston sports. But that's not life. Sometimes I've been watching White Lotus. Sometimes life is pain. Sometimes, life is discomfort. And that's just how it is. So definitely for Houston this week, life has been pain. But I don't think it's going to be like that going forward a lot, folks. I think the Astros are going to win this series against the Angels. I think the Rockets, they're going to play some fun lineups. You're going to see a lot of Jock Landale. You're going to see some Reed Shepherd out there. And I'm here for it. I want to see those boys play. I want to see Cam Whitmore play. I want to see those guys. So it's nice that we get to see a little bit of them mixed in here in the last week or so. Folks, there's a lot to be optimistic about with Houston sports. It was a tough series. It wasn't a lot of fun. The bullpen really, really got me to start taking my heart medicine again. I'm taking acid reflux now. No, all joking aside, make sure you're taking your meds, folks. This bullpen had a rough series, but I don't think it will be like that for the rest of the season. I think Dana Brown will bring back the pitching carousel. We're going to see some Houston Astros success going forward. Folks, that's what they do. They have a tough start of the season, and they figure it out. I don't know why they do it that way, but that's what they do. So don't panic yet. We didn't even bust out the panic meter in this episode, folks. Calmate. Things will be okay. All right? With that being said, that's going to do it for this transmission, Space Cadets. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I appreciate it so much. Please like, rate, review, subscribe, share, pop it, kick it, smash it. Hit all of those buttons for me. We are a small podcast, and we only go as far as our listenership takes us. We are supported by listeners like you. So please share this podcast with a Houstonian, an H-Town fan, or an Australian in your life. Folks, check out the Substack at spacecadetsports.substack.com, where you can get the full blog experience. You just put your email into that field. You get every post, every podcast, every meme dump emailed to you directly right now for free. I don't have anything behind the paywall right now in terms of new content, so you come to the blog, check it out, get to know me, get to know your Houston sports teams with a little bit of positivity, please and thank you. Let us know how you're feeling on social media. If you're not feeling as positive or optimistic as me, let me know kindly how you're feeling on social media at Space Cadet Sports on Instagram and Threads, and Space Cadets at spacecadetsports.bsky.social. We're more active on Blue Sky. We actually have some memes up on TikTok as well. Go check that out. Or you can call in. You can leave me an old school voicemail. Let me know your take at SpeakPipe. That's speakpipe.com/SpaceCadetSports. And if you're a weirdo like me, you like weird memes, weird jokes, you just like my all-around vibe, well, thank you so much. You can find me on social media at Paul Salazar Jr., where you can find all of my jokes, memes, arts. I always say arts. I don't know why. Podcasts, cartoons, all the silly things that I make at Paul Salazar Jr. or www.paulsalazarjr.net, because I'm nothing but net. You can find my other Substack and all that nonsense over there if you're nasty. Or if you're looking at this nice, sweet Cam Smith hat, you can check out the store. We're now selling hats. That's right, we're getting merch ready for the podcast. Go check out that Cam Smith aircraft carrier hat now, folks. Thank you so much for listening. Remember to be the best that you can be. Keep your head up, kid. And as always, vamos Houston.